everything that you do, things do not stand in isolation. And so if you just pick one this, one this, one this, one that, one this, what does it relate to? It must be linked to something. And so I'm sure when his manifesto comes out, we'll understand better what his linkages are. But for instance, you take one dam, one village, one dam, or one dam, one village. You know, you need to understand what is he talking about.
He said
in the north, what we call dam in the north is a dugout. And every village has a dugout. It's a pond. We used to drink from it in the north before when there was no water. But now that most communities have water, the dugouts are used for livestock watering. Now, if you want to do irrigation dams must have a feed-in source of water. And so you are talking of barrage dams and proper irrigation dams. Barrage dams are if a stream is flowing and then you put a wall across it, then you hold the water back. You can use that for dry season gardening, but not every village has a stream flowing by it. And so if you say one village, one dam, and you talk about the dugouts by the end of the dry season, the water is finished. They are dried up. And so he needs to, that's what I'm saying, when his manifesto comes out, we'll understand what he's talking about. But if he's talking about dugouts, SADA is doing dugouts for villages. The problem even now is not the dugouts, it's desilting them. Most of the dugouts are silted. And so SADA is having a program to desilt the dugouts so that they can accumulate more water for the cattle and other animals to be able to get water. Now, most of our communities use boreholes for drinking water. In the dry season, if the borehole is not very productive, then what they do is they drink the water from the borehole, but then they wash their clothes in the dugout. And so until he comes and explains exactly what it means, you know, then one can't understand. But as for barrage dams, irrigation dams, we're already doing them under the Ghana Commercial Agricultural Program. We're doing barrage dams for irrigation. When I went to Boko, I cut the sod for the Tamni irrigation dam. We've done the dam at Brenham. We are revamping the Via irrigation project. We're revamping the Bontanga irrigation project. We're revamping the one at Navrongo, the Tono irrigation project. We're revamping all those and bringing them under agriculture. There's a huge irrigation project that is going to take place under in the overseas area. It's called the Coupon Sicily project. And that is going to bring about 20,000 hectares of land under irrigation. And so the work that is going on in the north is massive. And so if you just come and say one village, one dam, you really haven't said anything.
He's talking about factories. He's talking about factories in district.
It depends on what factories. This thing about one factory per district came out under the Rural Enterprise Program. It's not a new idea. It's an a very old idea. But you need to look at the viability of those industries. As a student of economics, the location of industries or factories is based on several factors. You have to take those factors into consideration. For instance,
proximity to raw material and all that kind of
proximity to raw material, proximity to port, proximity to markets, cheap labor, power, water, all those things are things you take into consideration. So for instance, in some district, you cannot put a textile factory because the source of power is not sufficient. You need a strong substation in the district to be able to power a textile factory. So if you are talking of small and medium enterprises, like garri making factories, small processing factories where we use gratis machines and things, that is happening already.
So you are saying that the promises are not new?
They are not new. Under the Rural Enterprise Program,
there are things that your government is already doing.
Yeah, but it envisaged small and medium enterprises. What we're doing is small and medium enterprises, we're facilitating the private sector to do. Government will not involve itself in going to set up a small or medium enterprise in a community. We will enable the private sector to do it. And that's what we're doing. There are fabrication factories where they're doing fabrication. There are people who have small shea butter processing factories in the districts. So unless he comes and tells us, is he coming to do electronic appliances? Is coming to do textiles and garments? Is he coming to do car assembly plants in the districts? You know, if you talk about those factories, people's conception of factories differ. So if you say factory, then it means some big steel making plants in Bole district. We would love that, but it means you have to truck all the iron rods to Bole or all the metal to Bole and fabricate it
generally, you're
before
saying that
you
we
send
need
it.
better clarification.
He has to clarify
of what he's doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
he has a tendency to do that.
Oh,
he
I
has
see.
a tendency to do that. In the free school program, when you came down to the figures and the nitty-gritty, he found it very difficult to explain. It's the same thing that is happening here. You just throw out a promise. That's the old, yesterday's campaigning in those days, my father's time. You just throw out something, and then people just pick it. One village, one dam, one village, one dam. They don't know if it's a dugout, or it's a barrage dam, or it's a proper irrigation dam. They don't know. But then just because you say one village, one dam, one village, one factory, what kind of factory? Is it a car assembly plant? Is it the kind of factories we know, electronic appliance, textiles and garments? Are those the plants, or small and medium enterprises? If they're small and medium enterprise factories, that is happening already.
But he said, to be fair to him, he said free SHS. Yes, you may be right about the crunching of the numbers was not available, but you didn't say it. He said it. You picked it up and you have carried it out.
No.
And your supporters give you credit for
I said that it wasn't a new idea there again. I said because the Constitution enjoined us to introduce it progressively.
Progressively, yes.
And I said that I was enjoined by the Constitution to do it progressively. He said free SHS now. But I said that access was more important, because if you made it free and the schools were not there for the children to go to, what was the use? And so I was going to put resources into expanding access, but I'll progressively introduce it. That was my program. And his program was free SHS now. He didn't talk about access, he didn't talk about quality. Those were the differences.
Have you actually...
So now again, it's the same, just throwing out the promises like they used to do in those days. One village, one dam. One village, one factory. What kind of factory? What kind of dam? If it's dugouts, we don't need dugouts.
Let's come to your